All right, welcome back, Double Teamed Fam. How are we doing today? Um, I guess this episode will be a little bit of a hodgepodge mix. Also, it is my first night, and now I've recorded a ton of Vanilla Sundays on my own. But this is like my first episode on my own, which is kind of interesting, considering that I don't know, life looks different right now. And it's been fun navigating the changes of life right now. But I will say, I also just, I want to find my normal again. But I mean, and that'll segue great into let's talk about the first topic, moving to San Diego. Moving is hard. It is. And I know we've talked about it on the episode before, like, oh my God, you're not a tree. If you're not happy somewhere, move. And not that I was not happy in LA. I just knew that it was nearing my time to move. And I really didn't like the traffic in LA. Like, I love LA and the opportunity that it brought me. But I did not like the traffic. Anyways, so San Diego has been great. A lot more chill vibes, which I'm loving. Especially as I'm trying to just kind of slow down a little bit. Kind of go into more of a soft girl era. My social calendar in LA was always full. I was always up to something. Now this time in San Diego, I'm taking a much more lax approach, which I'm really enjoying. Also, I am loving living in the same city as my boyfriend and, being able to see each other more and have, a more fluid schedule has been really nice. So, yeah, I will say I'm definitely trying to find my girls here, I want a girl community. Now, of course, 2 of my BFFs from my rave fam are here in SD. But obviously, I want more gal pals. So I am utilizing my boyfriend's friends, girlfriends as BFFs. And it's been really nice, getting to spend more time with them, connecting more with them. And, I always love, I'm a girl's girl, okay? And I love, new energy in the sense that, finding friends to hang out with and do stuff with and go to brunch and nails and all that. So, yeah, that's how SD has been going. I'm still on the job search, unfortunately, but we go on. I do have a few goals with living here in San Diego. I'm still trying to find a pottery studio. I have found one that I think will be a good fit, but I want to go tour it. Also, pottery's expensive, so I'm also kind of waiting for a job before I start pottery again. Because I'm not gonna lie, studios it's a little pricey. Most of them are $250 a month. So I want to start volunteering again at animal shelters. As if some of you do, maybe if you remember, Snow, my first dog, I adopted at a shelter that I was volunteering at in Texas when I was 19. So Snowy's been with me for the end of my teens, all of my 20s, and the start of my 30s. She's still here, thankfully. She actually has a vet visit today. But yeah, I'm really passionate about volunteer work and fostering and helping animals. So I usually just typically for the past few years I've just been donating to a lot of rescues, but now I really want to kind of do volunteer work again. So that's another goal of mine. With moving and with going through change, it can be really difficult in the sense that whenever, for example, moving into a new city, kind of uprooting your life a little bit, changing your career path, trying to find a job, all of those things can kind of take a toll on your sense of security for yourself. And it can definitely, kind of mentally put you in a more vulnerable place. And so I think I've been trying to navigate that for the last, 6 months. And my boyfriend has been very supportive, which I really like. But of course, going through insecurities and stuff comes with its own challenges, even when you're in a relationship. So just trying to navigate that. Let's see. So sorry, Nikki wrote me an outline. Because let's just say, a little BTS footage. I already recorded this episode once. And Nikki came back, she's our editor. And she was like, yeah, that was shit. So you're going to re-record it. And I'm going to give you an outline. And I was like, okay. First time I recorded it, I was having a very busy week. So my mind was all scattered. And she was like, yeah, no, that's not going to fly with me. So here we are. Anyways, so let's talk about living alone. Going from having your sister as a roommate to living alone has been interesting. I'm not gonna lie, I'm freaking exhausted from like taking care of the dogs full time. Where before I had her help, now I don't. I was telling her the other day, like, I love Lobo. I love that dog. But he's a little bit of a needy boy, and Snowy slowed down a lot. So here's one dog that's like very fast or high energy, and another dog that's like very slow moving. And so, kind of dealing with those two energies and, handling their needs requires a lot of attention. So I was telling Nikki, I was like, whenever you get back to the States, like, I love Lobo, but I can't wait for you to take him back. And I say that in the nicest way possible. I really do. But it is different, like, not living with her in the sense that, I don't know, she and I used to just talk all the time, and there'd always be like conversation around me. And then now, like, living alone, it's a little different. But I will say, my boyfriend and I are moving in together at the end of October. So I'll go. I just do better in companionship. I don't know that I necessarily love living alone. Not that I would want to live with just stranger roommates though. So like, I like, obviously, like, living with a significant other, or I did enjoy living with my sibling. So yeah, it's kind of, not that it's horrible living alone though. I am enjoying it for the most part. Now, I will say one thing that, like I mentioned, my boyfriend and I are moving in together kind of like mid to end of October. Now, it's been a long time since I've lived with a significant other, and this will only be my second time doing it. Obviously, I've only done it once before, so I'm kind of curious, like, what that's gonna look like. Because, for example, like I said, I'm someone that I like the conversation throughout the day that I used to have with Nikki. Like, I like the companionship. I love the companionship. I love I love that. And then my boyfriend is very much like, he also likes his alone time, and he likes his space. So we're a little bit different in how we operate on that. Now, however, we are both very like lovey-dovey and physical touch oriented. So but that's like when we're together. So obviously right now it's easy when we're apart. He gets his alone time. So now I'm trying to think, okay, so when we move in together, what is it going to look like for giving each other personal space? Because now, I remember my previous relationship, the last time I lived with a significant other, a lot of the times he'd be playing video games in one room, I'd be reading in my bedroom or on the couch right next to him or something like that. And so I kind of have like a similar idea for my boyfriend and I, because he's the same. I mean, he practices piano, he plays video games, he likes to read. I like to read, I like to watch my TV shows. So I'm thinking those will be the times for us to like have our space and have our alone time. I will say I'm very excited for us to like co-sleep all the time, because I actually love sleeping next to him. I don't know. I find a lot of comfort in it. I mean, we actually pretty much do it fairly regularly throughout the week now, even though we live in separate places. So usually like he'll come here 1 or 2 nights a week, and then I usually go over there like 2, maybe 3 nights a week. I definitely prefer his place, and I'll get to that in a minute. But anyways, so with co-sleeping now, he's always joking, or he always says I hog the bed. I really do. But what's funny is like when we're sleeping together, I like naturally like gravitate towards him. and my body just like wants to be next to him. But I swear to God, like when I'm alone in my bed, Lobo takes up like over 50% of the bed, just the way he splays out at the end of it. And then Greywind sleeps right next to me. And then I get like literally like a foot, maybe like a foot and a half, whatever, of space on one side. And I just don't move. Like I just turn in place in that 1 foot. Now, which is so funny because like when I'm sleeping with my boyfriend, I'm like moving around, inching closer to him as much as, you know, he's moving around. But one really exciting thing that happened was that we got our first like bed together, which this is like our first like quote unquote, you know, joint big purchase in the sense of like that's like a big item. Now, you guys know how much I love my Helix mattress. I worked with Helix a few years back on the pod and to advertise their mattresses, and in return I got my own Helix mattress, and it's been the best. Like I love this mattress so much. I find my bed so comfy. It is such a safe space for me, and I feel really good about it. Now, I saw that Helix, one of their like sister companies is Birch. Now, Birch has really quality mattresses just like Helix, but what I like is that it's made of all organic and eco-friendly materials, which I'm stoked about. You know, I'm a tree hugger, so you know this is something that I'm super excited about. So, like I was saying earlier, I usually go to his place 2 to 3 times right now because our bed is over there, and we have this like cute little like light system with it, and it's just like so moody. We got really nice sheets, a bed frame that we freaking love. And so like our bed is just like, you know, like our cozy haven, and we're both obsessed with it. I love a good spring/memory foam hybrid. It is just top tier. Anyways, so what I really like is that the bed has, especially on the sides, it has like added spring support right at the tippy edge. So like when you're sitting on it, you get a little bit more support. They also come with a 25-year warranty, which I'm stoked about. It is made of quality organic fair trade cotton, organic wool, natural latex materials, and it has a focus of breathability to keep you cool at night. Which it really does. If you're looking for a new mattress, I definitely recommend getting the Birch mattress. We are offering our listeners a little discount. So if you go to birchliving.com/DTF, you will get 27% off. Again, that is Birch, BIRCH living.com/DTF. And yep, use that link and then you'll get the savings below. And it usually does come with two pillows. And I will say the pillows are top tier. I'm not gonna lie, the Helix pillows, I was like, they weren't my favorite. But with the Birch pillows, we took them out, we let them, you know, because like I love the way the mattress comes. It's rolled up, you know, you just let it out, let it puff up for a few hours, and then you put your sheets on it. Anyways, and the pillows were wrapped in it. And at first I got the pillows and I was like, okay, like I'm very picky on my pillows. And I usually have like a memory foam one that I like to use. Anyways, and so we're letting the pillows, you know, kind of fluff up from the packaging, and I used one, gave it a whirl for one night, and I was just thoroughly impressed. So, and on top of that, we did get their down duvet comforter from Birch as well, because I love a good duvet, and it is fire. It is absolutely fire. So 10 out of 10, Birch's mattress, pillows, their bedding is all worth it. So again, go to birchliving.com/DTF and get 27% off. Now, okay, so here's some interesting information about co-sleeping. So, did you know Europeans often use 2 blankets instead of 1? I've seen this before. What is it called? Like the Scandinavian method or something like that? I don't know. I could see it being beneficial in terms of like if you need a leg out to sleep. Because sometimes, like for example, I'm sleeping on the bed. My boyfriend's right next to me. Lobo likes to sleep at my feet on the other side. And then my feet get landlocked. And then I don't have a way to like take them out of the covers. And that makes me feel claustrophobic. So I could definitely see the benefits of using two blankets or 2 comforters. However, I question how that looks aesthetically when you make the bed. And maybe I'm overthinking that, but I like one cohesive look. So, another fun fact about co-sleeping. Psychology Today did a study with 289 adults married or in cohabitating relationships and found that there's a link between satisfaction in their bedtime routine and satisfaction in their intimacy. Couples who were less satisfied with their sex life were often less satisfied with their bedtime routine / co-sleeping habits. Other research suggests finding a cohesive nighttime routine can lead to better relationship satisfaction. And I did see something that said that for couples, it is very beneficial, like when you both go to bed at the same time. So like having a joint nighttime routine. So my boyfriend and I have been doing that since the very beginning. Any single time he goes to bed, I'm going to bed. You know, maybe sometimes I'll stay up reading a little bit more or vice versa, something like that. Or maybe one of us is doom scrolling a little longer than the other. But for the most part, we get ready for bed together and we go to bed at the same time. And I actually do think that is, you know, a good habit to have, for intimacy, and not just like intimacy as in like sex, because we actually never have sex like before we go to sleep. We actually just always do it during the day. But I think it's really good for like intimacy in the sense of that, like, you get to cuddle for a little bit, you know, you can have a little bit of pillow talk. You can do tima, which we do love to do usually at nighttime before sleep. So if you don't remember from one of our episodes with Abby, tima is the touch, educate, appreciate, metric, appreciate. So you start with like touch, then you both educate each other maybe on something that you learned that day, then you go into something you appreciate about each other, then you go into anything that like maybe needs to be discussed, and then end another appreciation. So we love to do tima. That's a great one to do within your nighttime routine. And then so I think in terms of like finding, and I'm just like thinking long term, especially as like, you know, we want to build a family, etc. When life gets in the way, there are often times, you know, when you're in a relationship, there are times when maybe the relationship is not the top priority. And, you know, and then at that point, it's like, when are you finding time for connection? When are you finding time for emotional intimacy, physical intimacy, mental intimacy? And I think for me, what's been really beneficial is like, I will always voice in a moment like where maybe we're just like having a busy day, whatever. I will always like say or ask like, hey, I need like 5 minutes of connection right now. Or, hey, do you want to connect real quick? And he typically knows that like when I need connection, that means we put our phones away, distractions go away, and we kind of just like sit with each other in our presences for a little bit, talk a little bit, maybe like make out or something. I don't know. But that's been really healthy for us. So I can see how like a cohesive, you know, nighttime routine that includes the both of you just kind of aids in finding that time for connection. Now, another fun fact about co-sleeping is sleeping in separate bedrooms should not be taboo, but for a lot of people, it can work. American Academy of Sleep Medicine revealed more than 33% of people are sleeping apart or considering it. I knew, like, for example, like I vividly remember one time in God, what was that? Elementary school. We had a friend, and I remember finding out that like her telling us that like her parents slept in different rooms. And I found that really interesting at the time, because like even for me, like, you know, I had just newly moved into the United States, like a few years prior. Like I just knew that like the norm was couples slept in the same room. And then fast forward to like, I remember, you know, maybe like when was that? 2019. When I was working at Hyatt in my events manager position, and I remember I was asking some of my employees, like, who were older, like what their relationships were like. And I remember one lady, you know, she was probably like in her 50s, 60s. She was saying how, you know, her and her husband, you know, had great intimacy and they slept together. And then I had another employee of mine who was like also in her 60s, and she was like, I don't want my husband anywhere near me. We sleep in separate beds. I don't want him touching me at night. And it's just like having that different, or seeing that difference, and like everybody really has their own preferences. So I think like in terms of sleeping in separate beds, is that something I would want? Probably not, at least not right now. Maybe when I'm way older, but I don't know. Probably not. I really do love co-sleeping. But I could see like maybe for some people, like if someone moves around a lot or they have like different morning routines, like how it could be beneficial to sleep separately. But for me, I just know that as a person that sees co-sleeping and cuddling as a form of intimacy, I'm definitely going to need it for a while. So, or that's at least where my mind's going. So, but anyways, so yeah, I am super excited about being here in San Diego and being here with my partner. And then I'm also giving myself grace in the terms of I'm going through a lot of changes, especially like job, pod, living in a new city. And so I'm just trying to find a happy medium. But I'm very excited about, like, for example, the bed that my partner and I have together. I'm very excited for like moving in together and making like more of those like big joint purchases where we get to have like our things now. And I'm excited to see what comes of my life here in San Diego. So, hope you enjoyed today's episode. It was very much a update on my life. I do miss recording with Niki in the sense that like the banter and, you know, having guests, and I want to give myself a pat on the back, or ourselves a pat on the back, for building this podcast and this platform over the last 4 years, and then, you know, staying true to like ourselves and the changes of life and shifting into a new chapter. And it's definitely like a bittersweet moment. And I will say I've always loved recording with Niki, and I loved our energy, and I think we brought a lot of, you know, fun to it together. And Niki definitely brought the structure, I will say that. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Wear condoms. Really need to stop that peace sign, but whatever.